The Dolphins were down 14-0 in the first quarter, and any chance of them making a comeback were dashed by 3 straight Matt Moore turnovers on 3 straight drives. And they all came after a crushing hit that almost took him out of the game. Yeah, John, I'm live here at the University of Pittsburgh, where Marino became a star collegiate quarterback and a household name. But long before he became Dolph fans' favorite player, he learned the sport of football right near where I'm standing right now on the streets of South Oakland. Central Catholic School, just a mile off the University of Pittsburgh campus, does not have its own game field. The sprawling Carnegie Mellon University even encroaches on its practice field. But here is where one of the best quarterbacks in the history of football came into his own.
As a receiver, I can remember being downfield, even 50, 60 yards. There was no arc on that ball. It was coming in downhill, and he was on the money.
That was before you had the receiver's gloves, so you'd really feel the burn when you caught one of his passes.
Marino grew up just a few miles from Central Catholic in South Oakland, a neighborhood where no one has a front yard, backyard, or even a driveway to practice throwing a football. As a boy, Dan would take the short walk down Parkview Avenue, down these same streets where his dad was a newspaper delivery man, to what was then Frazier Field. This is where Dan threw his first pass with his dad. His dad worked with him meticulously to get that perfect delivery, and now Frazier Field is Dan Marino Field.
His dad was always in the background. You never heard his dad yelling at a game. He was always sitting in the back row. But I think when Dan went home at night, he was a great athletic teacher.
By the time Marino had reached high school, he was already on his way to becoming Dan the Man.
I remember watching him, and I said to my buddy, that dude's going to play in the NFL. That's as pretty as any quarterback prospect I've ever seen. So that was my first memory of him.
Through 4 years at Central Catholic, Marino was not just a great passer. He was one of the best punters in the state, one of the best baseball players in the country, and an unmatched competitor.
He's definitely the man in terms of when you think of Central Catholic football, Western PA, you think of Dan Marino.
I feel for you, brother. How cold is it there tonight?
Well, it's 10. And this is about what it's going to feel like at kickoff on Sunday. Now, no snow in the forecast, that's a good thing, but you'd think the Dolphins would be here getting acclimated to this cold weather, but they've decided to spend the whole week preparing for this game in South Florida.
You can't emulate perfectly what it's going to be like in Pittsburgh unless you go into a walk-in freezer that's huge, the size of a football field.
The Dolphins' bubble in Davie is going to have to do. The team has chosen to mostly ignore the fact the temperature at game time on Sunday may be 20 degrees below freezing.
And at the end of the day, we got to play football. And once you get out there in the pregame and you get your warm-ups, and after that, you're not even thinking about it.
But when the temperature is in the teens, it takes a little more to warm up. The Dolphins' kickers did try something to help simulate game-time conditions.
We actually put balls in the freezer, believe it or not, and try to do some of those things, but you bring them out here and 5 minutes later they're thawed out, so there's really not much you can do.
And for that reason, the mantra is just don't think about it.
They're pros, and that's why they are pros. They just can play. They just jump out there and play.
Now, the Dolphins did win December games this year in Buffalo and in New York, but it will be much colder on Sunday here in Pittsburgh, and the pressure will be much higher. Live in downtown Pittsburgh, I'm Matt Lincoln, CBS 12.